Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for just a moment. Now, let it out slow. Through your mouth. Let your shoulders drop. Let the noise of your day fade away, just for a little while. Tonight, we travel back across 2,000 years to a very special night on the Sea of Galilee. This is not just an old story. It is a story of chaos that turned to peace, of fear that turned to wonder, of a power that can still calm the storms in our own hearts today. It began like any other ordinary day, but it ended with a miracle no one who was there would ever forget. A storm that rose from nowhere, tearing across the water in minutes, threatening to sink every boat on the lake. A quiet voice, spoken over the howl of the wind, that changed everything. This is the story of when Jesus calmed the storm. It had been a long, full day for Jesus and his disciples. Thousands of people had gathered on the sun-warmed shore, drawn by the things they had heard, by the hope that clung to every word he spoke. His words filled the empty places in their hearts. They carried hope they had never felt before, hope that rooted deep and stayed with them long after they turned to walk home. His words filled the empty places in their hearts. They carried hope they had never felt before, hope that rooted deep and stayed with them long after they turned to walk home. One by one, people packed their things, said their goodbyes, and headed out across the shore. The last question faded into the quiet of the evening. The sun dipped low toward the horizon, its edge brushing the dark line of hills on the far side of the lake. It painted the sky in streaks of gold and soft pink that stretched all the way across the water. It turned the lake's surface into a sheet of shifting light, every tiny ripple glowing like liquid fire. No wind stirred the air. The only sounds were the faint calls of birds heading back to their nests, and the soft shuffle of feet on sand as the last of the crowd left. Jesus turned to his disciples standing beside him. His voice carried over the quiet water, clear and steady. He said, "Let us cross over to the other side of the lake." The disciples did not hesitate. They turned to their wooden fishing boat, pulled it further down the shore toward the water, and put their shoulders to the hull. They pushed hard against the sand, and the boat slid into the gentle waves with a soft splash. Peter, Andrew, James, and John climbed in one after another, stepping carefully over the wooden planks and settling into their places. Jesus stepped in last, and the boat rocked just a little under his weight. These men had fished these waters their whole lives. They knew every hidden current that curled around submerged rocks. They had crossed this lake hundreds of times, in every kind of weather. They felt no fear as the boat pulled away from the shore. The evening breeze blew soft against their faces, carrying the salt tang of the water and the faint smell of pine from the hills behind them. One disciple set the oars into the oarlocks and dipped the blades into the water. The boat moved forward, cutting through the gentle waves with a soft hiss. Jesus, worn thin from a full day of speaking and answering questions, walked to the back of the boat to rest. He found a woven cushion tucked against the stern post, laid his head down on its soft surface, and closed his eyes. The boat rocked gently with the rhythm of the waves, a slow, steady motion that lulled him deeper into sleep. His breathing slowed, his muscles relaxed, and he fell fast asleep. The disciples rowed in low, quiet conversation, talking about the day's teaching and the people they had met. Everything was calm. Everything was peaceful. The lake stretched out smooth and dark before them, no sign of trouble on the horizon. Then something shifted in the air, so fast it caught them off guard. First, the breeze died completely. Not faded away, just stopped. The smell of pine and salt disappeared, replaced by a thick, heavy dampness that clung to their skin. One of the disciples stopped rowing mid-stroke and looked up at the sky. Far across the water, a wall of black rolled toward them, swallowing the stars one by one. This was not the soft, slow dark of coming night. This was a solid, roiling darkness that swallowed the light before it even touched the boat. The first gust hit hard enough to shove the boat sideways, slamming it into a swell. It howled through the rigging, sharp and loud enough to drown out shouted words. Then the wind kept coming, harder and faster with every breath, building until it shrieked around them like a living thing. The lake's surface changed faster than the eye could follow. It went from smooth glass to tight ripples in 10 seconds, from ripples to churning white foam that slammed into the boat's sides. The disciples locked their hands around the boat's rough wooden gunnels, knuckles white under their skin. Waves crashed over the bow, splintering cold water over every inch of the boat. The boat tossed like a child's toy, rocking hard left so steep the gunwale dipped into the water, then slamming hard right to throw them off balance. Lightning split the black sky wide open. These men who had spent their lives on this lake could feel the boat dying under their feet. They had never seen a storm build so fast, hit so hard. They dropped their conversation and threw every muscle into holding the boat steady. Some pulled at the oars, fighting to keep the bow pointed into the waves, arms burning with every pull that twisted against the wind. Others dropped to their knees in the sloshing water, grabbed whatever empty containers they could find, and bailed as fast as their arms could move. Water splashed up into their faces, ran down their necks, but they kept going. They had survived worse, they told themselves. They could outlast this, but the storm would not be outlasted. Water poured in faster than they could throw it out. The cold climbed up their calves to their knees, then up to their waists, heavier and colder with every passing second. The boat pitched harder, sending men sliding across the wet planks when they lost their grip. One man fell against the side, cracked his shoulder against the wood, and pulled himself back up, teeth chattering from cold and fear. How could Jesus sleep through this? The wind shrieked in the rigging. The next wave could flip them at any second, send them all under the dark, churning water before they could even cry out. Cold fear crept over them, heavier than the water sloshing around their ankles. We are going to sink, they thought. We are going to drown here. One disciple locked his hand around the wooden center thwart, pulled himself hand over hand toward the back of the boat. Every step took all his strength, the boat throwing him left and right with every roll. Jesus opened his eyes. No startle, no rush of panic, just calm focus that cut through the howl of the wind like a knife. He turned his head and looked at the pale, frightened faces clustered around him. He could feel the boat pitching under his body, could hear the water sloshing around the hull, could taste the salt spray on the air. He pushed himself up from the cushion, his hand brushing the woven fabric as he rose. The boat rolled hard to the left just as his feet hit the planks. The deck tilted so steep the edge dipped into the churning water. Every disciple grabbed for purchase to keep from sliding over the side. Jesus did not stagger. He did not sway. He planted his feet steady as stone, right there on the rocking, shifting deck, and stood straight. Spray hit his face. Wind pulled hard at his body, but he did not even brace against it. He turned slowly, facing the full force of the gale, facing the towering white waves that curled overhead ready to crash down. The disciples fell silent, even through their panic, waiting. In a calm, quiet voice that carried over the shriek of the wind with perfect clarity, Jesus said, "Peace, be still." That was all. Just 2 words, spoken with no shout, no strain, just quiet authority. The howl cut off. No slow fade, no lingering gust. It just stopped. The wind was gone. The only sound left was the soft, steady lap of tiny waves against the boat's wooden hull. Complete, heavy silence pressed in after the howl of the storm, so thick the disciples could almost feel it against their ears. The thick storm clouds pulled apart at the edges, and bright moonlight spilled down over the water, turning the smooth surface to silver. Every disciple stood frozen where they were, soaked through to the bone, water still sloshing around their waists in the half-full hull. Their muscles still burned from the fight, their hearts still pounded hard against their ribs, their lungs still pulled in gasps after fighting the wind. None of them moved, none of them spoke. The water was cool, perfectly smooth. No pull of current, no churn of current under the surface. He pulled his hand back and stared at his wet fingers, like he expected to find proof of the storm still there. Another man laughed, a short, breathless sound that ended as soon as it started, because he did not know what else to do. They stared at the still water stretching all the way to the dark shore. They stared at the stars pricking clear through the broken clouds above. Then they turned and stared at each other, their eyes wide and blank with stunned wonder. No one had ever seen anything like this. They had fished these waters their whole lives. One man turned to look at Jesus, who still stood steady by the stern, and whispered so only the men beside him could hear, "Who is this man?" Another disciple answered, his voice thick with awe that shook in his throat. "Even the wind and the waves obey him." This story holds a beautiful truth we can hold close every single day, and especially tonight when the world feels dark around us. When that storm rose out of nowhere and tore across the lake, Jesus was already in the boat. He did not leave. He did not disappear when the wind picked up and the waves rose. He was right there the whole time, even when the disciples could not feel his presence. Sometimes storms come for us too. They rise out of nowhere, just like they did on the Sea of Galilee. Maybe you lie awake at night right now, scared of what tomorrow will bring. Maybe you carry a weight that feels too heavy to hold, when everything around you feels quiet and cold and dark. You do not know what comes next, and it makes your chest feel tight, makes it hard to breathe. But this story reminds us of one very important thing. Jesus is in the boat with you. He never left. He is always right there, even when you cannot feel him. When you call out to him, just like the disciples did, he hears you. You never have to face your storms alone. Let's close our eyes for just a moment, right now. If there is anything heavy or scary in your heart tonight, you can give it to Jesus right now. You can whisper, "Jesus, I am afraid, but I know you are here. Bring peace to my heart." Just like you calmed that storm on the Sea of Galilee, he hears you. He loves you. And just like he calmed that storm so long ago, he can bring peace to your heart too. Sweet dreams, rest well. You are safe. You are loved. This has been a Faithful Storybook Bedtime Bible story. If this story brought peace to your night, share it with someone who needs it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.